I have no idea, and why my dad thought of taking a 15-year-old kid out of school so that officially I never even finished high school.
Okay.
I have no idea what went through my dad's mind to actually embark upon that journey, starting a business with his two sons. And my dad he just didn't want to hire staff. And my philosophy was, if I'm going to do this for a living and give up going back to school, then I want to make some decent money at it. And there's no way I'm going to make enough money just being by myself and be a one-man operation. Okay, well, you know what? The most exciting thing now is that about almost 7 years ago, my daughter came to me when she was graduating university and asked me if I would like her to join the family business. And I had never asked her, so she thought I was actually going to say no.
Welcome to Business in Families. I'm Alex Mendez, an advisor, a facilitator for family businesses. And for over 18 years, I've been helping family businesses face one of the greatest challenges, how to build continuity without losing the essence of a business and the family. Some stories are born from a clear vision, and then there are stories like today's that are born from hard work, discipline, and doing what it needs to be done, even when there's no other option. Today, I have the pleasure and honor of speaking with Martino Brambilla from Toronto, Canada, president of Embassy Ingredients, who has dedicated more than 40 years of his life to building and growing his own family business. A story that begins with his father, continues with him and his brother, ends up with his mother bankruptcy, and Martino decides to continue on his own. Today, he evolves the next generation, his wife and daughter. But the most interesting thing about this conversation isn't just the story, it's what Martino has learned along the way. In this episode, we'll talk about what it really means to work in a family business when no questioning things are part of the culture. How the dynamics between father, brothers, and how children evolve. Why discipline, perseverance, and daily work remain the foundation of success. And something key, how to professionalize a family business through an advisory board to make better decisions. In addition, Martino shares some very clear decisions that many families should need, such as why he recommends that the next generation work outside the family business before joining it, and why he currently runs the company as if he were going to sell it, even though he has no intention of doing so. This episode is supported by London Consulting Group, a firm I've seen help family businesses transform their operations and move from intention to execution. If you're part of a family business or you're thinking about the future of your business and your family, this episode will give you your clarity, and above all, it'll make you reflect. Thank you. Let's begin. So welcome to a new episode of Business in Families. I have the honor and the privilege to be speaking with Martino Brambilla. He's actually lives in Toronto, Canada, and his journey with this company began 47 years ago. And his official title, as his daughter and wife tells him, is the president of Embassy Ingredients. What is Embassy Ingredients, Martino?
Well, Embassy Ingredients, we in a nutshell, we manufacture ingredients for large-scale bakeries.
Okay.
So in Mexico, you would be very familiar with Bimbo bakeries.
Mm-hmm.
So we manufacture ingredients for people like Bimbo bakeries and large-scale manufacturers. They make products for Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, the grocery store chains. Mm-hmm. And we also have another side of the business which manufacture flavors. So we make all the baked goods taste exactly the way you want them, whether it's your blueberry muffin or your strawberry muffin or the syrups that you put in the coffee drinks. We help make those taste perfectly for you.
So you're a very sweet guy?
We're a very sweet guy. And basically everything that they tell you nowadays not to eat, we make the ingredients for those.
Okay, great. But why you picked up, or your dad picked up the Embassy name?
Oh, the Embassy name, actually, that was me. We were just trying to find a name that wasn't taken in the name search for creating a company. Mm-hmm. And the name Embassy wasn't taken. The original name of the company was Embassy Food and Supply Limited. because when the company first started, I was 15 years old, and it was mostly distribution for hotels and restaurants with a side business of making these flavors. We were bringing these flavors in from Italy, diluting them with simple syrup, which is sugar and water, and selling them to these Italian bakeries, the local little Italian bakeries up and down the street. That business promptly went bankrupt 2 years later. And then I changed the name to Embassy Food Specialties Limited, and we started just making the flavor side. And I let go of all the distribution. And at that point, when I took it over, we were doing about $5,000 a year in sales.
Well, my friend, you took me on a journey of almost 40 years. Let's step back and begin the journey. How did your dad came with the idea 47 years ago to begin this journey? Because that's something that people is figuring out.
I have no idea, and why my dad thought of taking a 15-year-old kid out of school so that officially I never even finished high school.
Okay.
I have no idea what went through my dad's mind to actually embark upon that journey, starting a business with his two sons. He's never shared his motivation on doing something like that, which I have to say my mother was not very happy that he took his kids out of school.
Wow. How do you felt in that point in your life, or there wasn't an option? Because we're from one generation that we don't used to challenge our parents at all.
You know what? I was excited. I was going to finish my high school through correspondence courses. Back then, there were no computers, so you had to mail in your course homework by mail. I only found out about 10 years ago I never got my high school diploma because I actually thought we only needed 27 credits, but we actually needed 30 credits. So I never got my high school diploma.
Well, that's life. You've been very successful and doing this business. You still have it on and keeping on the legacy of your family. But how do you felt when you and your brother began working together? Did it come up some tensions with your dad, among yourselves? How did that evolve during the years?
Well, in a way, it was a lot of fun doing it. My dad was a very difficult man. That's why when the company went bankrupt and we shut it down, I took it over without my father. My father had, besides being a very difficult man, he also wanted to have a company that would not have any employees. He didn't want to hire any staff. He just wanted to do a one-man operation, or if it was with me, a two-man operation.
Well, a three-man operation, because there was your brother also.
Well, my brother had already left by then.
Okay.
My brother had gone. He started directing. He got into television commercials. Mm-hmm. He did one good Hollywood movie, and then now he's doing video art.
Okay.
So he went into the artistic side. And my dad he just didn't want to hire staff. And my philosophy was, if I'm going to do this for a living and give up going back to school, then I want to make some decent money at it. And there's no way I'm going to make enough money just being by myself and be a one-man operation. And that was, and so besides my dad being a little bit difficult as a person to work with, that was a basic philosophy of the business where he left also. Mm-hmm. And he didn't wish me luck. He told me that I would be bankrupt in 6 months. Okay. And left.
So what do you thought was the secret sauce of that success you've been building up during the years?
Well, the secret sauce at the beginning ended up just being perseverance.
Okay.
And just not giving up. Like, I made no money for over a decade. Like, I was making more money in my newspaper route that I gave up to run the business than I did running the business. There was no money to be made. It was just sheer hard work. Actually, my dad's party, premonition that I would be bankrupt in 6 months was one of the things that kept me going. Every time that I was almost about to give up, I was like, No, I am not going to give them the satisfaction of saying I told you so and being right. So I would dig deeper, work harder, and try to figure out how to make money.
Do you have the support of your mom at that point?
Uh, my mom, I had her support. She wasn't happy I left school, and I did have her support, but no help in the business. When I was running the business, I was the only person in the business at the very beginning. There were no other family members helping me at all.
So other than being perseverance and working, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day and trying to make this a business out of it, what do you think was the uniqueness of your business model or the product or service that you were selling that eventually begin to roll up and being successful and being bigger?
Well, at the very beginning, I was just selling flavors, and I was bringing in these flavors in from Italy and diluting them. I started working with much bigger companies that were international conglomerates in Canada and North America. I became a bigger and bigger client for them, where I was even one of their distributors for 20 years and was one of their top 10 accounts. And then because in the bakery side, they didn't really regard flavors that important for these small bakeries, but they looked at mixes, like donut mixes or cake mixes, as being very important. And I bought the equipment in a company that was going bankrupt. I bought the equipment from them, and I started making mixes because clients were requesting mixes. And those are the basic two lines that we are doing to this day, which is the flavors and the bakery mixes. Now, as we got bigger, we started making our own products. We started hiring people that could make the flavors and formulate them. So now we don't buy them from other people. We make our own flavors, and we make them from the very basic raw materials, and we do them that way for the larger industries.
So some of you are figuring out or thinking why Alex Mendez interviewed Martino on a podcast of family business. But let me tell you, your wife, which I have the honor of meeting, knowing, and your daughter were with you. So this is a family business of your branch, and you're the first generation in that sense. How do you felt when you got married and your wife began to help you and make you grow the company and build it up?
Well, when I first met Virginia, I was still kind of small. I was getting bigger, but it was still a small company. And she would I couldn't afford office cleaners. So she would come into the offices on the weekends with me, help me clean the offices. So I would get off earlier and have a date with her so that I would have time to go out and take her out for dinner. So it was still like a very tough time and slowly building up the business. And it was a very slow process. And I say the thing that changed it and made it a little bit easier was when I went back to school and we met each other. When I took the course at OPM, I went to Harvard in my 40s, took this 9-week course with you over 3 years, and finally learned how to run a business. Rather than having a job, I figured out, how can I have a business with a strategy, with a go-to-market way of doing things, filling a need, completely changed the company. My mother was also very happy because, like I said, I dropped out of high school, and now she ended up going to graduation at Harvard. So she went from one extreme to the other, which made my mother very happy when that happened. And started working in the business in a much different way, with a lot more strategy, a lot more thinking and planning in terms of building the business.
So how will you define yourself right now in the company? What is your purpose?
Purpose of the company, or what's my day-to-day job? Or?
No. What makes you wake up in the morning, go to work, and think about the future? So what is you're chasing and you're building up? I would call it that the purpose, the why.
Well, Okay, well, you know what? The most exciting thing now is that about almost 7 years ago, my daughter came to me when she was graduating university and asked me if I would like her to join the family business. And I had never asked her. So she thought I was actually going to say no because I never wanted her to feel like she was obligated to. So I never asked her. And I told her to work somewhere else for 5 years. And then we talk again if she was still interested. She went and started working for M&A for 5 years. So she worked in the finance industry. We talked again 5 years later and decided that it was the time for her to join. So if you really think of what gets me up in the morning is really right now is mentoring my daughter, teaching her how to learn all the intricacies of this business and grooming her to take over the business one day.
Wow. And after you came back from OPN, that was in 2008, almost 18 years ago, what kind of changes you made in the company? Did you professionalize more? Did you put it an advisory board? What were those key things that you think had helped you grow up the business until the day today?
Well, I did a lot of changes. So one thing that I did was put in an advisory board. And one thing that I remember hearing at Harvard that really sunk is that run the business as if you're going to sell it, even though you're not selling it, because it adds value to the business. And having governance is one of those things. So we put governance in, we put an advisory board, which was great. Then another thing that we did that was very risky at that time, because I don't know if you remember, 2008 was also the financial crisis.
Of course.
So we all graduated while the economy was crashing. At that time, my business was about 60 to 70% distribution, and we only manufactured about 30 to 40% of what we sold. I decided while I was at Harvard that the future of the company would be manufacturing, not distribution. So over the span of about 12 months during 2008, we let go of all our distribution, and we doubled down on manufacturing. So even though we gave up half our business, we actually grew that year during the financial crisis. But it was very risky. There was a lot of sleepless nights, I tell you, because here it was. I didn't know the financial crisis was about to happen when I was giving up the business. It happened halfway through. And here we are changing the whole fabric of how the business was structured and what we were selling. And at the same time, there's the financial crisis happening. There were quite a few sleepless nights, but we came through it very strong. And to this day, we manufacture over 90% of what we sell.
But how do you oversee the company? You said so, run the business as you were going to sell it so you can add value, although you don't want to sell it, or maybe somebody will come up and put some figures into it. So what is your vision for the next 20 to 30 years in terms of legacy?
In terms of legacy, well, first of all, I don't plan to retire. I'm going to be a thorn in my daughter's side for as long as I'm still kicking. So I know she's going to want to get rid of me when she starts giving me special projects. That's usually the stage when try to put their parents off to the side. In terms of legacy, you know what? I enjoy the game. We're trying to do a lot more for our employees, our staff, and also the community here in Canada. Because of all the politics that are happening in the world, we're trying to do a lot more for Canada itself. We're doing a very big push in terms of buying as much as we can locally, helping to export more as a company in this country, and so on. So as a legacy, being a good citizen of the country, and sometimes starting charity close to home. Like we have a lot of staff, because we have a lot of production people that live from paycheck to paycheck. So one of the big core things that we're always trying to do is really take care of them and make them feel valued and make them have a good income where they can live very well in the city.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that and taking care of the people and giving back to the community. In terms of succession, does the advisory board has helped you having your daughter sitting down in the board and hearing these conversations and begin to this process of planning the succession, although it could happen in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, whenever it comes that you decide to give up the baton in that sense. And also, does your wife participate also in this advisory board?
No, my wife does not participate in the advisory board at all. My daughter is starting to participate in the advisory board. My wife she works in the company. I met her when she was working at Nestle, and she was one of our potential clients. And she worked in the technical department, and she runs now our bakery R&D department. Mm-hmm. But she was never interested in running the business, and hence she's not on the advisory board. Alexis is a different case where she wants to run the business, so we're putting on the advisory board and we're grooming her. I've actually put a new member on the advisory board that is a second generation of a business.
Okay.
So I'm trying to put some expertise on the advisory board that is applicable to what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And something that's helping me out a lot is YPO. It's an organization of business owners, and there is a great amount of second, third, fourth, even eighth generation businesses mm-hmm. that are in that organization. And I'm getting a lot of advice on everybody's experience and what they did and what they didn't do, and the whys. There's no perfect solution when you're structuring the business for the next generation. But it's great getting all the advice and seeing all the success stories and sometimes the disasters that might have happened.
So what, in terms of disasters that might have happened, what has been your biggest failure that has taught you more things than your success along all these years that you've been working in the company?
Oh, what was my biggest failure?
Yeah.
Okay, one time I let an account get to 45% of my sales. And the account demanded something for me that I wasn't willing to give them. And I said no. And it was, okay, all hands on deck to try to dilute that customer faster than he can take away the business from us.
Okay.
And I've learned never to let an account get to be 45% of your sales again.
Okay, so and how is it now? How do you turn the tortilla around?
Well, you know what? I think our biggest account is maybe 15% of our sales right now. So we manage it quite well. The only thing that's changed in the world now is that not only do we look at accounts not being too large for us, but we also have to look at countries mm-hmm. Because you don't know when a country will be cut off. So we're also trying to manage now how much U.S. business we have, or how much business we have with some other countries that might be more volatile, where the business might disappear overnight. Like, for example, we were about to make the Middle East one of our target markets that we would go after, and not anymore, not at this moment.
Not at this point in life. So
at this moment, I think they're on the back burner right now.
So what keeps you up at night right now? What takes the sleep out of your mind?
Right now, there's not that much is keeping me up at night, but it's just managing the growth. We're growing at over 20% a year. The industry is not growing. So the baking industry, because of GLP-1s, the Ozempics, the MAHA movement of Make America Healthy Again, and so on, because of all those, plus the economy, where if people don't have any money after they fill up their tank of gas, they're not buying the muffins when they go home.
Okay. Because
they don't have any money for muffins. So because of all those factors, our industry is not growing. we're growing at a very rapid pace. And sometimes I'm just wondering, even though we have a very good strategy, we have a very strong pipeline, we have a lot of business coming in, like how far can we go against the current and continue growing as a company when the industry isn't growing?
Do you have these kind of conversations on the dinner table with your daughter and your wife around this kind of stuff, this thought of thinking?
Well, we have it at the management meetings, and they're both on the management team.
Okay.
Maybe not as much at home over the dinner table, but we definitely have them at the management meeting, and making sure that we have a strong strategy and we have a strong pipeline, and we manage the cash flow accordingly so that we stay on the right side.
So along the conversation, Martino, you comment that as a best practice, when your daughter talk to you about coming into the company, you tell her, no, thank you. It's interesting, but you go work outside of the company for 5 years, and you still want to come back. We'll talk again and see if there's a position here and so on and so forth. So in those terms, and talking to, and that a lot of the family business are listening or seeing this podcast, what would be those learnings that you had along the years that you could give as recommendations to those families that want to transcend from one generation to the next one and keep on their legacy?
Well, I thought when I said that to my daughter that the main benefit would have been she would have had 5 years work experience somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And then she would have joined Embassy with this 5 years experience. What ended up actually being more important than the experience was that 26-year-old Alexia was not the same as 21-year-old Alexia. Okay. Not because of experience, because of maturity. So I think the biggest thing is making sure that the kids are mature enough to join, not just experienced enough. Because that will tell a lot about how they can work with the parents and so on. Like sometimes like the 20 and 21-year-olds think they know everything. They don't really see the other side. Once you get to be in your mid-20s, you start realizing that there is another side and that you don't know everything. When you get to be my age, you realize you know nothing. And there's a lot more to learn. So it's amazing how we all know less as we get older. So it's something about maturity, about realizing and being more humble, you might say, that sometimes you aren't when you're younger.
Okay.
And it's fun seeing her at 6, viewing the world and things a certain way. And in some ways is what I viewed them at 26. And I realize now that I view them in a completely different way. Because again, part of it is your stage in life. And she's going to mature now. But at least I started with her at 26, not at the 21 year of age where she was less mature.
What about recommendations in terms of professionalizing your team and having an advisory board? You think it would help other family business trigger the growth and see in the forefront of the next 20, 30 years, making good decisions or better decisions?
Well, there's nothing wrong about having an advisory board in any size, even if you're a very small company, because it's great to have other smart people that you can talk to give you advice. And remember, you can say things to your advisory board, even if you have a very professional management team. There's things you cannot tell your management team that you can tell your advisory board. Mm-hmm. And what I like about advisory boards, they're not a board of directors. They can't fire you. So if you're a family business, you don't have to be guarded. You don't have to be worried about, what if I tell them this piece of information that you might get with a board of directors. You can choose or not to choose to listen to what they're saying and the advice they give you. But you also are bringing them together for a reason, so you should listen to them and listen to their advice. But that'll help any business at any size. And even if you can't formalize it, have a group of people that can give you advice.
Yeah, it gives you more than it takes it. It's an investment for the future.
Oh, absolutely. That's what they've saved me more money than I will ever pay them in terms of keeping me from making a bad decision. And I'm lucky because I also belong to an organization called YPO, where basically the group of people we get together with every single month with other business owners, well, that's almost like a private advisory board also of other business owners that give you advice. And like by coincidence or not coincidence, 90% of my advisory board is YPOers.
No kidding. Great. I hope they're not part of your forum.
No. They're not. They're not part of my forum. No, they're not.
Yeah. What about accountability and being transparent with the information? Has it helped you having an advisory board and having your management team know that at least 4 or 5 times a year they're going to have to present stuff, challenges to the advisory board?
Oh yes, because let me put it this way: when I present to the advisory board, I know them very well, and they're just there to give me advice, and I can take it or not take it. When my VP or finance or anybody else presents to the advisory board, they look at it very differently. They look at it more as a board of directors, the way that they view the advisory board, because they're once removed. They don't realize how much power they might have or not have. And it's this outside body that's evaluating them.
So as a business leader and as a first generation, what would be those recommendations that you could give other family businesses? Doesn't matter what generation they're in, that you've learned along the years that could help them tackle the challenges of making the transition to the next generation?
Well, I'm just starting to transition to the next generation, but I've talked to a lot of people that have lived it on the child side, which has been an eye-opener, seeing what the second and third generation think about the transition that they lived through, and talking to people in my position that are now setting up the transition to their children. And one thing that I'm very adamant about doing is that it's my responsibility to structure it so as much as possible, money will not hurt the relationship between my children. My children are best friends. I value that more than the money that they're going to get. And I'd rather they get mad at me because I made a tough decision about how I'm going to do things than they get mad at each other. Best of both worlds, are not mad at anybody. But the thing is that I have one daughter that's never going to be in the business, actually just starting up her own small business right now. And I have one daughter that's going to be in the business. So I have that to think of and how to structure things. So is talk to a lot of people that have been through the experience, not just the lawyers. The lawyers and the accountants will give you a lot of advice, but the best advice I've been getting is from people that have lived through it. And they've stopped me from doing certain things that I think back going, you know what? That was kind of obvious, but I never thought of it. Mm-hmm. But after they mention it, it seems very obvious. And the last one came from somebody who's they're in the 4th generation. And they were telling me about certain things that I was doing and how it could backfire, even though I had good intentions. And now I'm making sure that I don't do that and I do it in a different way.
Can you give us some examples of those so people can learn out of it?
Well, one piece of advice that I got that I never thought of is that when you have owners that are non-operators and they might not have the controlling voting shares, they might have financial obligations where they're buying a house or they're buying a new car or buying a new boat, whatever it might be, and they'll continue coming to the branch of the family that's running the business asking, can I have this much money this year? Can I have this much money this year? So one advice I got from one person that's running a family business, he said he put in the bylaws that every year a certain percentage of net profits have to be put out through dividends.
Mm-hmm.
So then all the owners of the company know that they have a certain amount of money coming every year, as long as there's stability in the profits of the company. Of course, that the money doesn't come out of the company's not making any money. So now there's no arguments between the children about, I want more money this year, can you give us more dividends or whatever it is. It's in the bylaws, this is what you give every single year, and it's at a percentage that won't hurt the company and can still keep the company growing.
What about buy-sell agreements? Because we never thought when we begin a business that how do we exit it? So also that's one of the things I've learned is having buy-sell agreements, how to exit the business. It's a very good practice. Have you thought about it, or have you have it in your company?
Besides doing something that would be like a shotgun, so that nobody treats anybody unfairly, no, I haven't gone down the path of anything more on a buy-sell agreement if one daughter wants to buy out the other daughter.
Well, eventually,
that part I haven't. Right.
But think about in 40 years that maybe your grandchildren are going to be inherited part of the stock. And one of them eventually would say, you know something, I want to do something else. I want my shares to be sold and not hurt the harmony of the family. So that's why, as I've seen in other families that are third or fourth generation, having buy-sell agreements, how to exit the business, is a very good practice. Mm-hmm. So think about it, Martino, for the future. You, as you said, you're right now, you're the architect of what's going to be part of the structure for the future of the company and the family.
Yeah, there was one unique, I was visiting one company, and the way they solved a buy-sell agreement, they actually put it in the company bylaws that the company can never be sold, okay. Which is very unique. That is very unique. I don't know.
So I don't know if
think that's the first.
I don't know if that's going to backfire them.
I have no idea, but that was a very unique one. But right now, the buy-sell is everything has to do stay within the family. You can't sell outside the family, things like that. But those are the basics. But again, yes, I probably have to think more along those lines, and that's. I'm just now thinking about operating the business and keeping harmony, and I haven't thought of the buy-sell part yet.
Well, it's part of these conversations, and I thought that you guys that are listening or seeing this podcast have learned from the incredible story of Martino Brambilla building this company, Embassy Ingredients. Final question, Brambilla. What do you take out of this conversation in terms of learnings?
Start thinking about putting together a buy-sell agreement and in the transition of the company.
And if you have to recommend if you have to recommend this podcast to a family or to your daughter or your wife, what would you say was the key thing that you should see this podcast?
The key selling point?
Yeah.
There is a very attractive, sexy podcaster that's doing it.
You're crazy, my friend. Thank you very much for having me in this, having the opportunity to talk to you, Martino. And I wish you to keep on growing 20% a year and for the next 50 years, my dear friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
After listening to Martino, one thing is very clear. Family businesses aren't built with speeches. They are built with years of work, discipline, and difficult decisions. I'm led with several powerful lessons from this conversation. First of all, discipline and perseverance remain the foundation of success. There are no shortcuts. You can put it more personally. As Martino says in his history, many times it meant years of working 12 or 12 hours a day simply to keep the business going. Second, The family business evolves and you have to adapt to the circumstances. Going from working with your father to working with your brother and then integrating the next generation isn't automatic. It requires conversations, adjustments, and a lot of maturity. Third, that one of the most valuable lessons is that the next generation should automatically enter the business. Martino says this is clearly for his 20-year-old daughter. First, go out, work outside the family, and if you want to come back later, then we'll talk about it. This completely changes the logic of many family businesses. The fourth lesson is professionalization isn't optional. If you want to grow, implementing an advisory board not only involves decisions, it also generates discipline, transparency, and accountability throughout the team. And one that I think is key to leadership mindset, run the company as you were going to sell it, even if you don't want to. This forces you to generate value, structure it well, and make better decisions. If this episode leaves you with one thing, should be family businesses don't fail for lack of having business. They fail for the lack of structure, communication, and preparation. Thank you for joining me on Business in Families. Thank you also to London Consulting Group for supporting this place and for the commitment to helping family businesses build sustainable results. I leave you with this thought. Continuity doesn't happen by inertia. It's built with intention. Because at the end of the day, legacy isn't what we inherit, it's what we're able to sustain over time. Thank you and see you in the next episode of Business in Families.
Y hablando de crecimiento real, en London Consulting Group, creemos que la transformación comienza cuando los líderes deciden actuar. Growth Stories, una serie que presenta casos de éxito de líderes que transforman visión y estrategia en acción. Descúbrelo en nuestro canal de YouTube y landing page. Hoy observas, mañana puedes liderar el próximo Growth Story, reimaginando los resultados, redefiniendo el futuro. London Consulting Group.